Any more from the Assembly? Okay. So Chancellor, I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you earlier today. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Glad to hear that you have a farming background and know how to milk a cow being from Nebraska originally. And so I did have a couple of questions. You talk about the community colleges and the abysmal graduation rate of as low as 20%. And I'm very happy to see in your testimony that you have undertaken a major initiative to address that fact called the ASAP program, which provides, from what I can tell, as you outlined, very intensive care and attention to the students that seem to be failing right now. Because as you point out, they're investing in higher education, they have the debt, they have the bills, and then they don't get the education, and so it's a double whammy. I was wondering what the graduation rate overall for the 275,000 CUNY students is, because I didn't see it in the testimony. So if you could explain to us what that actually is.
So on average, we typically measure in 4- and 6-year graduation rates for senior colleges nationally and 2- and 3-year graduation rates for community colleges. The 4-year graduation rate overall, and I'll get you these numbers specifically in case my memory's a little off, is about 45%. And for community colleges, it's around 20, a little less. Important to note, though, I think, that the urban community colleges across the country's average graduation rate is about 15%. So this is a challenge that is not unique to New York, certainly not unique to CUNY, and we must find a way to address the needs of those students. Right now, unfortunately, too many of them come with developmental education needs, and we need to continue to try to figure out how to address that both at the middle school and high school level, at the transition, and once they get to college. And we have a lot of successful programs in place, and we're growing them.
So how does the 45% compare nationally?
Well, I don't know what the, first of all, you can't compare, you have to compare these figures to like places. I suspect Harvard's graduation rate in 4 years is over 90%, but they start with a student profile that is very different than the profile of students who come to CUNY. So we compare to similar public institutions. I'd be happy to get you the comparisons or give you a peer comparison to show how we do. But as I acknowledge in my testimony, this is an area that we see as one of the most important challenges we face. We're in no way alone on this. If you look at public higher education across the country, whether it's urban community college or the large state universities all over, they all have graduation rates that are not what you would hope they would be and what I would hope they would be. For many years, public higher education in this country focused on affordability and access. I would suggest almost to the exclusion of success. It was all about providing affordable access. And more recently, we have, at CUNY, everywhere else, I think put considerably more attention on timely degree completion and what kinds of things we can do to support that. So if you said to me, what could we do that would help you improve your graduation rates more than anything? Well, one is that adequate financial support for students. I mean, these are all components of ASAP that will allow them to attend full time, because it just, it makes sense that if you're in a senior college and you're taking 15 credits a semester, your chances of graduating at a time and way are much better than if you're going part-time because you can't afford it. But then there are investments in full-time faculty, which I think are incredibly important and we've just made. And another would be academic advising and the other kinds of support. The best funded universities, certainly all elite universities, have considerably more resources invested in the support of their students. it's ironic that at CUNY, we probably need that investment more than at most colleges and universities, but we don't have the resources to do it. So I think those are the kinds of things that could make the greatest difference for us.
Thank you. I was interested to hear you mention middle and high school students, and I was wondering what your relationship is with the city's school system, and how does it work, and are there ways that that could be improved?
First of all, we have a deep and long-standing relationship with the city schools, the DOE. We have about 25,000 students in early college and college now programs where either on weekends or during the class day we're providing them opportunity to take college courses. We have programs throughout the city where we offer college courses and in fact allow an associate degree at the same time you can get a high school degree. So there are many, many programs. It's an impressive array of programs and partnerships with the city. And we are working with them all the time to see how we can better address their issues with preparation and proficiency of students. Ours, as Chancellor Zimpher said, this is a challenge that all of us own. There is no throwing anything over the wall. We produce 30% of the teachers for New York City. 6 of our colleges are in the top 10 colleges in terms of the number of teachers hired each year in New York. So we have a role in both making sure that students are prepared through sending great teachers to the high schools and the middle schools, and then also addressing remediation needs once they arrive.
Thank you for that. You made it abundantly clear you don't like the governor's funding proposal as far as you know, the structure that he set up. But I also wanted to ask about the tuition increase, because you're in favor of the tuition increase. And as you know, it'd be annually for the next 4 years. So what assurance could the state legislature have that that tuition increase would be used on enhancing student outcomes? What are the plans for that funding if it were to occur?
Well, I can tell you maybe the best predictor of future behavior is past performance, and with the last 4 years, the first 4 years of investment in this program, most of the money went to either hiring faculty, as I mentioned, almost 1,000 new full-time faculty, and investing in student support programs, advising, and others. We would continue to do the same. In fact, we would welcome language that is suggested now that focuses the investment on those needs. As I mentioned, we are not planning to raise tuition for community colleges, which is 100,000 of our 275,000 students. But the funding that we need going forward is to invest in our student success. And by the way, I think probably the single most important element of student success is having highly qualified faculty who are working with those students. And so not only do we need to be in a position to hire new faculty as we have, we need to be in a position to support those faculty we already have.
Thank you. And you looked a little puzzled, but I meant the governor's plan that would have, because the CUNY Board of Trustees is appointed by the city and they're 1/3, they should pay 30% of the costs, and that's what I was referencing. And that's something that you said that would be problematic for you, correct?
I'm sorry, what would be problematic?
The $485 million.
It would be devastating if it were a reduction in CUNY's budget, I think, is what
right.
I
And
said.
so just the governor's rationale is that because 1/3 of the CUNY Board of Trustees is appointed by the city should take on some financial responsibility for the CUNY system. So.
Yes, I understand that position.
Yeah, so thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. I think we're done. So we appreciate
Okay.
being here.
Thank you very much.
Chancellor.
Thank you.
Some of the most amazing dancing skills I've ever seen.
Chancellor, Mary Ellen here. How are you? I'm very well. Nice to see you. Good to see you. Nice job, I know. Yes.
Yeah, because I watched you at 9:30 when we were eating dinner. My daughter turned it on. So she can take her phone. Yeah, and look. And put well, you go on your computer, you do that. I didn't know what the hell she was doing. And she put it in front of me. And I looked to see it, and there was one picture of you were missing. And New York State Education Department Commissioner Mary Ellen Elia. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm glad. I thought we'd have gotten
Hello.
tonight by now, but we're not.
It's a pleasure to be here with you all again.
Again,
Again,
So good afternoon, Chairs Young, Farrell, and Glick, and members of the Senate and Assembly that are here today. As was just pointed out, I'm Mary Ellen Elia, the Commissioner of Education. I am joined by Executive Deputy Commissioner Beth Berlin, Senior Deputy Commissioner Joan Ebert, Deputy Commissioner for the Office of Higher Education, John DeGotti, Deputy Commissioner for the Office of the Professions, Doug Lentovic, and we have with us Kevin Smith, who is Deputy Commissioner for Access. You have my full testimony before you. I know you have many people in the room to hear from, I'm sure, so I'll try to be brief so we leave time for any questions you may have. As you can see on slides 2 through 4, we know from multiple indicators that college access and completion matters. Higher college attainment translates to higher earnings and lower unemployment rates. And we know that jobs that require post-secondary education will grow faster than occupations that require a high school diploma or less. That is why a major priority of the Regent's agenda relates to increasing access to higher education, particularly for the underrepresented students, and seeing these students through completion of their degree. As you can see on slides 5 through 9, the Regents request an increase of $9.75 million for the higher education opportunity programs. These programs serve students that are at the highest risk of either not attending college or not completing a degree. And they all have a demonstrated record of success, including a 92% graduation rate for Liberty Partnership seniors in 2015, 81% of whom went on to college. Our focus on access and completion extended to the work group to improve outcomes for boys and young men of color, led by Regent Lester Young. Among the group's recommendations highlighted on slides 10 and 11 was a request for $8 million to support expansion of the Teacher Opportunity Corps, which is focused on recruitment and preparation of teachers of color. I want to thank you for your investments in early college high schools and P-TECH schools. As you can see on slides 12 through 15, these programs have been extremely successful. We urge you, however, to make these programs permanent in state law rather than forcing them to rely on year-to-year funding decisions in the state budget. The districts, BOCES, colleges, and business partners involved in the partnerships make multi-year commitments to the success of the students, and the state should too. As you know, the regions have been advocates of the New York State DREAM Act, highlighted on slide 16. It's time for New York to stop punishing students for decisions that they had no control over and give them the opportunities to succeed that they have earned. As you can see on slide 17, the regions are also requesting that you make a $10 million investment in bridge programs to enable out-of-school youth to obtain essential basic skills. On slide 18, we highlight the resource needs of the department. We're urgently seeking your support to ensure that the department is funded at a level that allows us to implement the critical laws that you pass. For example, last year, a new law was passed to address the troubling incidents of sexual assaults on college campuses. SED was charged with conducting a new audit process, which we had no experience with or capacity really to implement, with no new resources. At the same time, the other agencies charged with implementing other provisions of the law were provided $10 million for implementation. This is not a sustainable model. On slides 19 to 23, we provide you with updates on the work of the Office of Professions. And I want to bring particular attention to the issue of e-licensing on slide 23. This is an issue of great importance to the department. In 2009, the legislature approved a 15% registration fee increase so that we could replace a 35-year-old COBOL-based licensing system and enhance our customer experience. And we again thank you for your bipartisan efforts to make these resources available to the department. However, there was an effort to create a statewide licensing solution, and unfortunately those efforts have resulted in a product that cannot meet the needs of our complex processes. The department requested authority to spend $4.3 million in existing funds we have on hand in the professions account to develop our own system, but unfortunately that authority was not provided in the proposed budget. If this is not addressed in the 30-day budget amendments, we request that your one-house budgets provide this authority to allow us to build a system to better serve our constituents. Before I take your questions, I want to again thank you for the opportunity to discuss our priorities with you. As I mentioned at the education budget hearing, there has been a significant focus on economic development and infrastructure in the proposed budget. However, if you do not invest in our education and our workforce pipeline from pre-K through post-secondary education and the professions, then the investments in economic development and infrastructure will have a limited impact. We need to both maintain and further strengthen our system of higher education, including the city and state university systems in New York, as we strive to assure broad access to affordable and high-quality opportunities for educational advancement. Thank you, and I look forward to our discussion.
Thank you very much. Assemblywoman Deborah Glick, Chair.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Last year, over the last couple of years, we've actually added to the opportunity programs. A few years ago, it was 3%. Last year, it was 20%. I see that you've asked for additional resources for these very important and very supportive programs for students. I'm wondering, has all of the money gone out? Is there a lag time? And if we were to add additional resources, would that be to expand existing programs, or would it be to add new programs at different institutions?
So right now, our requests are specific to the programs. For the Liberty Partnership Program, which I pointed out has a very high percentage of students that have been successful. 92% have graduated from high school, and then of those 92%, a very high percentage go right into college. There specifically is $750,000 increase, or 2.5% to the existing programs. So from a perspective of are we expanding to new programs, we really feel like there are much opportunity in programs where we really see performances occurring to expand those programs and open them up for more students. In the Science and Technology Entry Program, or the STEP program, we're asking for a $2.5 million increase to fully fund what is one currently partially funded to fund an additional 5 programs. So those programs that are in place, we're asking to be able to expand those. This would serve an additional 2,500 students in that program. And by the way, both of those programs address the issues of middle and high school students. So I know that that had come up, Senator Young, on the issue, the questions that you asked Chancellor Milliken. And we do believe that that is extremely important. We have great success with those programs and want to expand them. The Collegiate Science and Technology Entry Program, or CSTEP, we're requesting a $4 million increase to fully fund and the current partially funded programs, and to fund an additional 17 programs. And again, that would expand it to 1,900 additional students. The Higher Education Opportunity Program, which is a $2.5 million increase to raise support to $6,500 per student. For current programs, but for every dollar New York spends on the HEOP program, independent colleges have a $6 or often a higher match. So when we put money into those programs, we're getting more out of that. It serves over 4,600 students in 53 programs. And just for your information, in that program, 81% of the HEOP students graduate college. Now, you heard some of the difficulties that both SUNY and CUNY have in raising the number of students that are graduating in either a 4-year graduation or a 6-year graduation rate. But when you have programs like this, what it's doing is actually addressing the issues that Chancellor Milliken talked about, which is providing supports for students so that they can be successful. And then the Teacher Opportunity Corps is the last one that's included there. It's an $8 million increase to support new and expand current programs, enhancing curriculum and recruitment and retention of teachers of color. This is a huge issue for us. We are going to face in New York severe shortages. In some areas we do now, but it is going to continue to get worse, and particularly for students of color. This particular program, it's serving now in 6 programs. We're serving 87 students, but 95% of those teachers are retained in the high needs district after 5 years of teaching there. So programs that have been successful where we haven't expanded, we feel that the best use of the funding, the additional funding, is to take something that's been already successful and expand it.
In the past, there have been some lags in getting dollars out the door prior to your arrival. So what I would ask now is, do we think we've reached a point where, whether it's an RFP or whatever, that the timing has now been adjusted so that the programs can retain the talented staff that they have? When there's a gap, the programs that are on the ground run out of money in order to retain staff. And then there's this gap, and they're frustrated and upset, and they lose people, and then, so this fit and start, if you will. There was some understanding that years ago when our budgets we'd never know when they would actually be passed. We're now on a trajectory where there's a lot of certainty about when the budget will pass, and I am just wondering whether the agency has been able to adjust to that so that there is in fact no longer going to be, have the dollars gone out the door?
Well, I'm going to ask John DeGotti to give you some specific information, but I can tell you the fit and start deal is a major problem. And I think one of the things, we've got a couple other programs that we can also mention that, that relate to our students that are in high school still. And both the P-TECH program and the early college high school, where I mentioned in my comments that if we don't let them know that that funding is coming, every year they have to wait for the budgets to pass. And that's a major problem when so many people are investing as partners in these students, and they're never sure if they're going to be able to finish out the cohorts and make sure that the programs are complete. So John, if you could address the issue of where we are in terms of getting the money out.
I think all of the opportunity programs are now, the funding is all flowing properly. I know that we've had delays when there's a new RFP and then we're getting all the approvals and getting it all cycled through. We are going to try to start earlier in the process so that we have more time allowed on the back end to have the RFP process, you know, have it go through the proper process, but still get the money out on time.
Okay. Last year, we instituted a new program, the Foster Youth Initiative, and I'm wondering if that is, again, something that you have participated in, and if money is going out.
Yeah, it's in process. I believe money has started to flow. We are waiting for certain I think we're waiting for some documentation from SUNY, but the money that was allocated, there was a specific amount of money, and it was a specific percentage of money that would go to SUNY, a percentage to SUNY, CUNY, and a percentage to the independent sector. And the process is moving forward, and the last I checked, we're just waiting for certain documentation to come back, and the money would flow.
Okay. As we're looking at the potential for expanding that program, are there particular pitfalls that we should be aware of, in that it is new, and everything that's new takes some time to work out the kinks, as it were? If we were to add to that initiative for a new cohort of young people, could that be accommodated?
Yes, but I would have to get back to you if there were specific pitfalls or things that we found along the way, which I can certainly, you know, look at.
I would very much like to know that, because we think it's an important arena, and we want to be sure that these are young people who age out of foster care. Mm-hmm. They sort of go off a cliff. Yeah. They had housing and they no longer have housing. They, you know, were perhaps had some supports to go to school. Now they don't. So the whole point of this is to not pull the rug out from under them when every other rug has turned into a banana peel. So this is something that's of personal interest and concern. I know you're asking for more money for HEOP, but in view of the fact that it is so successful as a program, and I know you want to be reasonable, but what would you view as the an outer limit of what could be scaled up in order, so that if right now I think you're seeking an additional 2.5 million.
Right.
And I'm wondering if, from your conversations with different schools that are looking to add programs, in a perfect world where we're trying to address the supports in each of the different public systems and here in the private institutions, could the agency handle not a $2.5 million increase, but a $5 million increase?
Yes, and let me say, if both of the chancellors mentioned the issue of support for people who are in their program, guidance, and giving them supports as they're going through the program. And the HIAP program is one of those that we've seen a lot of support. I've had the opportunity to talk to both of the chancellors as well as the independents, the deans, and presidents, and all of them have said that as we can get the funding to them, then they're in a position to really get and push the agenda for more successful students graduating on time. I think it's a huge issue for us. We can handle getting that out. We had, as you pointed out, I mean, it's trying to create a balance of what the regents are asking for, and we have other successful programs we also think should be advanced.